Yo, what up guys, I'm Sammy and welcome back to the Soul Drop, and this is my performance review of the Wade DLO 1. So of course this is D'Angelo Russell's first signature shoe with Way of Wade. So I don't really know what the Ice Blood 2 was. You know what I mean? Like the whole line, you know? I guess maybe those were like, yeah, I don't know what those were. So, because this is his first signature shoe though. You know what I mean? I thought those were his first signature shoe. But anyways, this shoe retails for $120. And this is the canvas colorway, which I think looks pretty dang good. Also, the overall design of the shoe is really, really nice. It is inspired by a butterfly. So if you put the two shoes together, right, it creates a butterfly with this TPU piece, which of course is there for more support and stability. And also there is a butterfly on the top of the tongue as well with this 3M material. So if you guys do want to cop it, try to leave in the affiliate link in the description box. If you do choose to get this shoe, it does help me out if you buy it through the affiliate link in the description box. And as always, thank you guys so much for all the support. But let's get it started right off with the traction. So as far as the traction pattern goes, it's a pretty interesting traction pattern, right? So as far as the colors of the outsole goes, we got a lot of colors. And it is a solid rubber, of course, which I do like. You know, I'm not a huge fan of translucent rubbers. First of all, it does yellow, and also sometimes, or usually, translucent rubber can pick up a little bit more dust than a solid rubber counterpart. But anyways, here in the forefoot, we got some pods, right? Some oval pods, and inside of those pods, we got like this W shape with like a loop on top of it. Pretty interesting pattern. And also, I really like how this kind of like wing piece, this TPU piece, goes into the outsole as well. It's like a separate piece for this rubber, you know what I mean? But yeah, how's the traction? The traction is really nice. You do need to break it in, however, right? So at first it was okay. It definitely wasn't terrible, but it wasn't amazing, right? But once I broke it in, it actually has a really nice hard stop on a clean court, right? So yeah, if you're playing on a clean court, you do have really good stops. I wouldn't say it's like top tier, but you do have a very, very nice solid stop. And of course, this rubber is actually tough rubber. So yeah, tough rubber usually has really good performance, and this shoe is no exception. And also, this shoe has a nice loud squeak. You know, it's not super loud and it's not super high pitched, but it does, you know, once you break it in, it has a nice loud squeak, which of course has nothing to do with performance. But if you like a nice loud squeak, this shoe's got you covered. But however, this shoe does pick up a little bit of dust. It's not terrible though, you know what I mean? It's actually good for dust performance. It's just not great, you know, or it's not top tier, I would say, you know? So yeah, it does pick up dust, and it does pick it up kind of quickly, but the wipe off is really, really easy. You just do a very easy slight wipe, and I was good to go, and I had really good stops, right? So when I was playing on a slightly dusty court, I had really good traction, never really had to wipe too often either, and I never really kind of like slid out dangerously or anything like that, right? And then when I was playing on a super dusty court, I just needed to wipe a little bit more often. And that's it, you know? The traction obviously just wouldn't bite as hard, but you know, of course, once I wiped, I had good stops. It's just I needed to wipe a lot more frequently, which is kind of annoying. And also, like I said, it does pick it up kind of quickly. So if you are playing on a super dusty court, you are going to need to wipe a lot. And if you don't mind wiping, then you should be fine here in the DLO 1. But again, it was kind of annoying for me, right? And if you are going to be playing on outdoor court, I feel like you should be okay, right? The one thing that I really love that they did is, you know, the highway areas, right? This is a highway area. You're putting a lot of pressure on the balls of your feet right over here, right? So with this pattern, they actually made it thicker. You see these grooves, the W shape? These are actually thicker here, and then once you get into here, it's a little bit thinner there, right? And also, of course, it is tough rubber, so if we're taking their word for it, it'll be way more durable than traditional rubber, and you should be fine on an outdoor court, right? So I feel like, you know, if you are going to be playing on an outdoor court, you should be good to go. I don't think it's going to be the best, right? But it feels like you'll be fine. And also another kind of like extra little bonus is this shoe does have an outsole curvature, which is, I feel like D'Angelo Russell just really likes to have, you know, and all of his other shoes from Way of Wade, they all had this kind of like outsole curvature. Of course, it is a lot flatter of a shape than most Nike Kyries. You know, it's just a little bit curved, and also the rubber comes up here on the side, so you get better, you know, grip when you're doing these types of movements. But it's there, it feels kind of nice, right? So the overall traction, I really did like. It's really good. It's just not top tier because of the dust performance. And now moving on to the heel to toe transition, overall extremely smooth feeling, right? So here in the heel, crazy curve shape first of all, and also fully exposed midsole, right? So this midsole is Light Foam Ultra, and it's really, really soft. So doing heel dominant strides is really, really smooth. Coming here to the forefoot, we got a nice curve shape and crazy amount of forefoot flex. Look at this. You know what I mean? We do have Pro Bar lock, right? So we do have two pieces. We got this piece as well as this piece, but torsional support definitely isn't like great though. You know what I mean? So if you need a lot of torsional support, this shoe definitely isn't the best. It has more of a really soft, nimble, flexible feel, which of course a lot of shoes have, like, you know, the Luka 4s. Crazy flexible. And also, you know, the Sabrina 2s, crazy flexible as well. So yeah, if you like that, then you're not gonna mind the DLO 1. But if you want more of like a springier or more supportive and stiffer feel underneath your foot, then this shoe isn't the best option, just like, you know, the Luka 4s and the Sabrina 2s. So yeah, heel to toe transition, extremely smooth and flexible feeling. Not crazy springy, of course, right? So there's that. Moving on to the cushioning setup. So the cushioning setup is really nice and very, very plush. And it feels actually pretty similar to the A1, right? So the A1, very, very nice cushion as well. So it is using full length boom, and also here in the heel, it is using light foam ultra, like I said. So yeah, we do have a nice bit of compression here in the heel. The overall core feel is good though, you know what I mean? So if I were to, you know, say what has the best core feel, the Sabrina 2 and the Luka 4s have the best core feel, right? Or one of the best core feels that you can get. And then a little bit higher up off the ground than that is the DLO 1, but I would say the DLO 1 has better like underfoot cushions, just more soft. It's a little bit more plush than the Sabrina 2 and the Luka 4. But something that's a little bit higher up off the ground is the A1, just a tiny bit, you know what I mean? So yeah, again, still really, really good core feel for the DLO 1. Overall impact protection also is really, really nice. I had no issues with this shoe. My foot felt nice and protected even on hard heel strikes. And also the underfoot cushion is really soft, right? So it has better core feel than the A1, but it still has just as soft of an underfoot cushion, probably due to the strobo board, right? So first of all, the insole is just a regular foam insole. It just kind of feels, it feels kind of nice, but you know, nothing special, right? Not super thick or anything like that. But underneath that, of course, we have a soft mesh strobo board, and even to the touch, just feeling it with your finger is really freaking soft. And that's just the boom, right? It's full length, like I said. So yeah, the underfoot cushion is pretty much just as soft as the A1 while still having better core feel. Has great impact protection, has a nice little bounce as well. I would say it's a little bit bouncier than the A1, you know? So also has a nice kind of like subtle bounce. For me though, it's not like super bouncy. It's just, I can feel a nice subtle bounce once I really get going though. And I'm really like trying to go fast, sprinting down the court and stuff like that. That's when I kind of felt it. But again, not super bouncy, you know, obviously like, what's super bouncy? Like the Liren 5, especially in the heel, the Liren 5 super bouncy, the LeBron 22, you know, the 808 Ultra, but this one has more of like a more subtle bounce, more responsive and stiffer feel than, you know, like a shoe with like full length zoom, you know what I mean? So I feel like it's a really good kind of like overall cushioning setup. I feel like a lot of Chinese shoes have like this setup, you know, which I would say I'm getting a little bit sick of, you know, because a lot of shoes are doing this, you know, especially from Chinese companies. But it's just such a nice setup though, especially for like a cheaper price for 120 bucks. And for a guard, you know, it's soft, comfortable, but still has nice impact protection, underfoot cushion, and court feel. Yeah, it's a really nice setup, but I would say it's a little bit boring. You know, it's more like generic, I would say, because again, like so many shoes have this type of cushioning setup, but it's still really nice, you know what I mean? And I feel like it's so much better than, you know, like 5-10 years ago when, you know, Nike was giving us a really stiff Phylon or EVA from Adidas, you know what I mean? So yeah, the cushioning setup, very, very nice. And now moving on to the upper. So the upper also is really, really nice, especially for the price. So we have this kind of like mesh material. It's a little bit glued down, but you know, now that it's broken in, it's definitely softer than when I first got it, but still has a little bit more of like a glue down, stiffer feel, especially because of these overlays, right? So in this color, we can't really see it as easily, but we do have this kind of like almost translucent plastic material right here on the medial and also on the lateral side. We also do have some kind of like embroidered parts as well, you know, just like with these lines. But yeah, here in like on top of your toes, in the middle of the toe box, it's actually soft. But again, just a little bit stiffer feeling than like, you know, the Sabrina 2. Sabrina 2 is just like really, really soft, and also like the Luka 4s, really, really soft, right? So it has a little bit more of like a stiffer, supportive feel here in the toe box, which again I do like, especially because of this kind of like plastic piece, you know. But it still conforms to my foot extremely well, you know. And it's still a thin material and still a very well ventilated material. And also here in the midfoot, same thing. You know what I mean? You can see over the eyelets that plastic material as well. And also underneath this, we have some underlaying materials as well. It's glued down and makes it a little bit stiffer here in the midfoot for better structural rigidity, but still a softer type of material, right? But again, a little bit stiffer than like the Sabrina 2s, right? The Sabrina 2 is still soft and, you know, like the Luca 4s, you know what I mean? And then for the tongue though, we have pretty much zero padding. It's also a very open mesh material. It still has good airflow. It's also a half booty construction tongue, giving you a better overall one-to-one fit. And also here in the ankle area, like on the sides, it's just nothing. It's just very, very minimal for the padding. And of course, where your Achilles is, you know, like most shoes, there's a little bit more padding, but still nothing like super cozy or anything like that. So yeah, honestly for a guard and you know, if you're looking for a shoe that has a really minimal thin upper that still has a very nice supportive feel, comparing it to, you know, like the Luca 4s, the Sabrina 2, and like, you know, the Jaw 2s, then this is a very, very nice option, you know what I mean? And I really liked how it felt on foot. Because it still had a nice kind of like supportive feel while still feeling minimal. So, and also it has way better quality, I would say. You know, it just feels way better put together. It doesn't feel cheap at all, comparing it to pretty much all of Nike shoes, right? This is just like, what are they doing? The mesh, the Luca 4 definitely has the cheapest and least durable feeling material, you know? Sabrina 2, also pretty cheap feeling. And here in the DLO one, I definitely feel like it feels way better. So there is the material there. Now moving on to the fit, I went up half a size and this shoe fits me pretty dang well. So for the length, it does run a tiny bit long. So just be careful with that. If you want to have a little bit more of a snug fit, then, you know, go down half a size. But I feel like for most people, you should be fine. Also here in the toe box, I would say it's a kind of snug fit. You know what I mean? I can still definitely curl my toes up, but it's not super easy to do, which I like, right? So first of all, this kind of like mesh material isn't like super forgiving, you know, because again, it is a little bit more like glued down. But also it's weird because like on top of my toes, it's like softer feeling, but then here on the sides, it definitely feels a little bit more supportive, obviously because of these overlays. So it feels like a little bit more snug here on the sides, and then here in the middle it's a little bit more forgiving, which is a pretty interesting feel, right? And also for the width, it is pretty narrow as well. I feel like, you know, DLO, he just has a really narrow foot maybe, so it's a pretty narrow fit. So yeah, again, for me, I like a really snug fit, so this shoe fit me pretty dang well. So there's that. Moving on to the support and lockdown, I was fine, right? As far as the lateral containment goes, we got, you know, obviously this TPU piece, you know, it comes up a little bit here in the forefoot. Also, we do have the plastic. So overall, my forefoot is not coming out of the footbed. Here in the heel, we do have this plastic piece and an internal TPU heel counter. So lateral containment, I was good to go. My foot's not coming out of the footbed at all. And I feel like, you know, even if you are a bigger dude, you're gonna be fine, you're gonna be good to go. And also lockdown, you know, my foot wasn't moving inside of the shoes. Structural rigidity, structural support here in the midfoot was fine for me as well. And I would say it's more supportive feeling than, you know, like the Sabrina 2s and the Luca 4s, right? These were adequate for me, you know, but these are just really freaking, you know what I mean? Like just the upper does not feel supportive at all. So I feel like if you need a lot of support and, you know, you've played in these shoes, and also if you are heavier, then probably these aren't the best option. And I would say the DLO one is a little bit better, you know what I mean? But for me, and I feel like for most people, I'm just like regular weight, support and lockdown are going to be good for you guys as well. And also lateral stability was good. You know, we do have a little bit of an outrigger, right? It does protrude out here in the forefoot. And also I had zero heel slippage or anything like that. And I really liked how, you know, like this mesh material, it is a half booty construction tongue, and it kind of just like it feels a little bit more like a one booty upper, you know, or it is a half booty construction tongue, but it makes it have that like one booty upper feel because this mesh material kind of like just goes over your entire foot, or almost your entire foot, and kind of like stretches over your foot, and that also improves the lockdown as well, right? So yeah, there is a support and lockdown there. Moving on to the weight of the shoe. This shoe is actually pretty dang light. It comes in at 10.85 ounces. It's in the 10 ounce range, which is extremely freaking lightweight. Yeah, 10.65 ounces, right? So it's almost 2 ounces lighter than average weight. The average weight of my shoes is around 12.5 ounces, so it's almost 2 ounces. And yeah, this shoe feels really lightweight, very, very minimal, and extremely responsive, but also has a really nice comfortable feel to it, especially since the cushion is really nice, right? So yeah, when I was playing on a clean court, it was just a really fun shoe to play in, especially as a guard, you know what I mean? I just loved how comfortable it was as well, you know? It definitely felt a lot more comfortable than like the Sabrina 2s, the Luka 4s, in terms of, you know, not only the cushion, but also the upper, you know? So there is the weight there. Moving on to the ventilation, really freaking good. There's a lot of airflow to this mesh material. Also, this tongue, you have a little bit of airflow as well. The material is thin, so yeah. Ventilation, your foot's not gonna be really super hot in the shoe. Also, aesthetics, I really like it. You know what I mean? It kind of has like the same design language, almost kind of, as the Tatum 2, but I feel like this shoe just looks way better than the Tatum 2 for some reason. And also the colorways that are going to be coming out, it looks pretty dang good as well. So tell us what you guys think of the aesthetics down in the comment section below. So wrapping things up, yeah, this shoe is really nice. You know, the only thing that's like making this shoe not top tier for me is the dust performance, which kind of sucks. You know, again, it does pick up dust pretty quickly. And if it had slightly better dust performance, I would be like, yo, this shoe is really freaking nice and it's top tier, right? But because of that, I would say I bring it down just a tiny bit, but I still really enjoyed playing in this shoe. And in terms of cushion, it definitely has the best cushion comparing to all these other shoes, you know what I mean? But it's a little bit higher up off the ground, of course. But the traction, I would say, is a little bit worse than the Sabrina 2, which is, again, the Sabrina 2 is a top tier traction for me. I would say it's on par with the Luka 4, but a little bit better. It picks up a little bit less dust than Luka 4. Luka 4 picks up a good amount of dust, you know what I mean? But just the quality of the upper is way better. It just feels a lot less cheap as well. So yeah, the DLO 1, you know, if you're a guard, I feel like you'll definitely enjoy this shoe, especially if you are looking for a responsive, lightweight shoe that still has pretty nice and soft cushion, you know? If you're a bigger dude, I would say you can make it work. Probably not the best option, but I feel like it'll be okay for bigger dudes as well. So anyways, that about concludes my performance review of the Wade DLO 1. Again, if you guys do want to copy, try to leave in the feed link in the description box, but that's it. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.